anticipating a war? Do you guys see war or is it, hey, we're just going to go show force, or let's get ready for a war? What was that feeling like back then? What was the messaging?
No, it was all out, all out war. It had been declared because we already had the buildup of over 100,000 troops from all these other bases across the U.S. So from the buildup itself, it's hard to see it as just a show.
Right.
There were so many threats and ultimatums getting thrown out there that it could have easily been just a show of force.
Sure, sure.
If Saddam had just pulled out all his forces out of Iraq, out of Kuwait, it might have just been exactly that, just a show of force, and that would have been it.
But history tells us a different story, doesn't it?
That's right. That's right.
So that show of force wasn't just a show. It actually came to fruition. What was that like, Masa? What was it like going into war?
Wow. Well, as well as I do what comes with it. It's hard for a 19-year-old kid to prepare for that mentally.
Right.
It's part of the job, and you just have to steel yourself and set your mind to it.
I think for our listeners too, and by the way, thanks again for joining us here on the Honor Across Arms podcast. I'm Joshua Littrell, your gracious host. I'm joined by MASA KENNEY, an Army veteran who's talking about his time in Germany, and we're following up from our previous podcast. Now we are going into Desert Storm. So, MASA, it's hard for our listeners to even understand that. As a 19-year-old kid, we're trained up for this, right? We're ready.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sitting back thinking, oh, I'm going to war, or, oh, this is just crazy. We're ready. I can't even fathom what our listeners can think, because the way that I felt, I know is the way that you felt. We are trained. We are ready. Let's do this. This is why we joined,
Roger that.
It's so crazy because when we try to tell our stories and tell people, and I asked that question, what did you feel like? How did that feel? And I felt the same thing. Okay, this is our job. Let's go do it. Like, that's all there is to it. People don't understand. If you are a car salesman, your job is to get out there, go meet that customer, sell that car. If your job is to operate a tank and push a round into the chamber and fly it downrange, that's what your job is. You are trained on your job. You complete that job, complete that mission. That's what it's all about. Boom. It's easy for us, Now, as grown men, we can look back and say, wow, that really was something. Because the feeling I get now is completely different. Thinking about it, that, wow, my life was in danger. I know your life was in danger. But at the time, we just didn't think about it.
No, part of the job.
So true. So true. Oh my gosh. So when you guys get the call and it kicks off, what was that like? Did you guys have the gas masks and things that we did? We were there in 03. What was it like for you all? Were you prepared for WMDs, or was it more, let's throw rounds down range and annihilate the enemy?
Really, it was both. We were prepared for WMDs. There was the threat of chemical weapons being sent over in Scuds, which I believe at one point there was, and we pretty much obliterated them when it came to real ground conventional war, and did the amount of ordnance that we dropped on them and their front lines and their retreating lines, that was, some real shock and awe. They
right.
They were in no condition to fight by the time our ground forces rolled up on them. So, we ruled them in the skies, obviously, and in every level of the battlefield. And the thing is that our biggest threat that we still had to watch out for was chemical weapons, and that was something that we did prepare and train for constantly. We, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Jarhead, where you see them all in protective gear with full protective mask, mop level 4, out there training in the hot desert sun. But that's something we actually did, and it wasn't fun, but there were a couple of instances that we had to have the chemical sirens, they went off, and we had to go to the mop level 4 like on 2 different occasions.
What was the living situation like for you all? Were you in tents? Were you digging foxholes? What was that situation like?
Yeah, it was both. Again, we were living like nomads out there in the desert, unless we were on the move. I mean, once the desert storm actually happened, we started moving into Iraq and all that. It was tent life. We lived in a place called Tent City, and we dug our foxholes just in case there was some kind of thing coming, and it was a little weird because you had to sit there in Tent City to wait for your all your equipment to come in on the ships and dock, and the port was Dammam, and so once your equipment did come into the port, you'd had to transfer out there from Tent City in the middle of the desert to the port side and live in these huge warehouses where there were literally nothing but cots. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of troops just in the port warehouses to get their gear and get their tanks and get all their stuff and start gearing up there. And it was in the port of Dammam that we actually caught the first incoming flights of Scud missiles, and there was a battery of Patriot missile battery there in the port that took out a couple Scuds. So we got to see some pretty amazing fireworks shows that rocked our earth and the port and everything around us. So
there's no explanation that we can give people on what those Patriots mean to us, is there?
Oh man, I mean they're huge. I mean, just to have them on your side just means everything, and I can't say enough because every branch has all these auxiliary services that mean everything to the survival of the whole.
Right.
And just to know that. Seeing those there around the base or the encampment, and to seeing AA guns set up, and every kind of possible auxiliary service in place. We had Navy SEAL divers, I think, with porpoises out there that were patrolling the port, and even caught a couple of enemy frogmen or like a submarine or something. There's just having that level of a structure in place and means everything.
We are a strong force, and those the bonds that we make during wartime are those bonds that last forever. There's no doubt about it.
Oh yeah.
Masa, we just got a couple more minutes. So you're there in Desert Storm. Did you end up PCSing from there back stateside? Where did you go after that?
No, I actually I went back to my base in Germany that I had to the Rock, and spent after I got out of Desert Storm, I went back there to spend another 5 months before I ETS straight from there.
Wow. So your joy and thought that you were going back stateside to finish out your service never came to fruition, huh?
No, never did. I was looking forward to Colorado too. I had a lot of great things. Yeah, it never happened.
Well, we'll have to get out there as civilians now,
Okay. I will.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, MASA Kenney, I can't say enough. Again, thank you for your service, sir, to this country, and thank you for taking the time out on this Honor Across Arms podcast. It's amazing just to follow up and finish that story. Your time, your service in a different country to the United States is tremendous. And then, hey, middle of a war, I mean, wow. We've gotten it all on this Honor Across Arms podcast today. Masa, if you don't mind, close us out, and we were definitely try to get you scheduled on another one. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and thank you so much. I appreciate you, and thank you for having me on.
You got it, Masa. Thanks so much, guys. If you want to join us on the Honor Cross Arms podcast, just get in contact with us. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever your favorite podcast section is. That's where we're at. Masa Kenny, thank you so much being our honored guest today here on Honor Cross Arms podcast. I'm Joshua Littrell signing off. Y'all take care.
Line over there, send the word over there, that the Yanks are coming, the drums rum-tumming everywhere, so prepare, say a prayer, send the word to beware, we'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there, over there.